All right, everybody, welcome into the Pugs and Parker Pillow Talk stream. We do this every Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. It is the second of two streams that I, Pugs Moran, do here on the Radio Misfits podcast platform. The first one, we call that High Noon. That's every day at 12 p.m. That's headlines, current events, hot topics, trends, whatever it is that's happening in the world. I give it to you right there. It's just me giving you hot takes. And then, of course, we double back 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's myself and James Parker for a little thing we call Pillow Talk. There he is. Look at him. James Parker. There he is. Hi, April. April's here.
Hey, April.
How are you?
Happy Mardi Gras. Happy Mardi Gras. To all of my New Orleans friends who are posting your fun little pictures all day of you at parade since 8 this morning or whatever. You're very lucky. Yes, on some level, I am jealous. No, his name's not also James Parker. He just doesn't check his captions before he logs in. And you're drunk, so you probably should go to sleep by now. By the way, something you don't know about Mardi Gras, it's usually done about right now. There's not a whole lot that goes on from here to the end of Mardi Gras, and it's the only day every year.
Well, I thought it was the end of Mardi Gras.
Well, Mardi Gras is the end of carnival season. I'm talking about Mardi Gras as a day. It's not a nighttime party, and they cut it off at midnight. They literally, it's the only time all year they actually stop the party on Bourbon Street, and that's at midnight on Mardi Gras.
So this is Fat Tuesday. Yes.
Yes, I'm wearing the appropriate clothing. If you live there, I lived there 16 years, so I have a bazillion Mardi Gras themed clothing because it's a month and a half every year, and yeah.
So Fat Tuesday is the day of indulgence where you're supposed to indulge one last time because tomorrow, Ash Wednesday, you have to pledge to give up something for Lent. Is that correct?
I mean, that's the story. I'm Protestant, so this was all news to me and I never experienced before I got to New Orleans, but that's supposedly the rule.
I was wondering why I, the Catholic, was asking you, but I was being a bit, rhetorical.
Right. I think we all get that. You know what the holiday is. Most
I do.
But they actually end the party at midnight and they shut it down and they get the phalanx of horses like the Roman cavalry and they just push everyone out of the French Quarter.
Ooh.
Yeah. There's a phalanx of horses that pushes a crowd, and I've been in the crowd that got pushed at midnight because I had to see this for my own eyes because when I moved there, I was 29 and single and drunk. So yeah, it's fun to see that with your own eyes. So to compensate for that, these people the first parade starts at Mardi Gras Day, 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Which means you got to get downtown and you got to get your place set up by like 7:30 in the morning. And yeah, it's
not a part of my culture, but I get it. I mean, it's a big thing. Those people live for that stuff. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's just being drunk on a Tuesday night.
Yeah. Well, I do get jealous because for me, it was just a Tuesday. I mean, I jogged and did some work, and
it's also the weekend. I mean, it's a whole event, right? I mean, there's a whole weekend.
Kids are off school all week in New Orleans. In fact, my kids are kind of pissed that they're not off school this week. Are you ready to bring in the guests?
Yeah, go ahead. You've for the guest.
Whoa. Whoa.
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Look at that. It's Headcrack, ladies and gentlemen. How exciting. Look at you, you handsome devil.
Pugs and Parker, the gang. It's good to see you guys back together once again.
Well, yeah, for now anyway. Yeah.
Whoa, that sounds sad. What's going on?
No, I'm teasing, of course. What brings you to these shores? First of all, it's so wonderful to have you here. What are you doing? James, tell everybody who Headcrack is. Not that they need that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, how far back do you go with Headcrack? Give us the backstory.
So, Headcrack is, I'll go ahead and cut to the chase. Are you the second biggest morning show on the hip hop format in the country?
I mean, I don't know.
You have number 2 affiliates right now, aren't you?
Yeah, we have quite a few, but but even cooler than that, I'm an OG Pugs, James and Kelly fan. Let's start with that, right? From the time that you guys were like in the basement, still broadcasting from Chicago way back in the days, I was tapped in on the middle of the night, man. And I just remember when y'all went from doing that overnight shift to going to do, middays. At 105.3, and just the way y'all put it together and the fact that you guys are still rocking out in some shape, size, or form still in 2023, it's just dope, man. It's just so dope.
Well, that's very kind of you to say, and, you were always just such a gentleman all those years back, and it was wonderful having you be a part of the show, and you used to come by, and we really did appreciate that. You gave us a degree of credibility, you know, 'cause you had no business liking us, you know, or our
No, no, you guys
or,
are a lot hipper than you
you know?
guys give yourself credit for, and I also took pride in being your cool black phoner friend.
Yeah, yeah, okay. You did. Whenever we had serious issues and we weren't sure what we, you know, were allowed to opine on, we would always reach out to you because you could at least vouch for the fact that our hearts are in the right place, even if we are ignorant and
Indeed, indeed. Like, you guys are opposite of everybody that was in the movie You People.
All right. I haven't
If
seen
anybody's
that.
seen it.
I guess I
But
need to see
it's
that.
a great movie. Eddie Murphy,
Yeah.
Jonah Hill. It's pretty dope.
All right, so Byron, about the time that you were listening to Pugs and Kelly back in the day, Headcrack was the evening show on 97.9 The Beat, along with Keynote and Super K.
Correct.
And then, yes, and then Headcrack moved to morning show glory with the Ricky Smiley show, and then was on either the or the second biggest urban morning show for how many years. And then when he moved on, because he was getting a little long in the tooth to do an urban format, he had to move to urban AC, and Headcrack takes over the ship. And so when you look at where we were when this whole thing got started and where Headcrack ended up and where we ended up, we look absolutely ridiculous. We look
No, but you guys have control of your situation. You get to, like, you know, navigate your own future. Like, there's so many handcuffs that come with being tethered to a
I know.
corporate situation.
Headcrack, homeless people have freedom. You know, that's freedom is not the ultimate goal here. Oh, you have control.
He's one of the most successful modern broadcasters, and he's trying to make it seem like somehow we won the race. It has been an absolute thrill watching you over the years. When
I appreciate that, guys.
You moved on. I used to watch you. Are you still doing TV at all? I used to
Yeah,
watch
Dish Nation Monday through Friday, man, talking about everything that's popping off in pop culture, man. And you know, and I hate to make it seem like it's like me going like to you guys, but you know, I loved listening to y'all show because like y'all talked about pop culture, y'all talked about news, and that was all a part of like my Slumdog Millionaire story of like, yo, like, you know, just like, you know, it's cool to know about everything that's in the urban landscape, but also to know about things that's like across the board in pop culture as well. You know what I mean? And like I used to tap into y'all show to get some of those fixes that I couldn't get on my side. You know what I mean? So I could be a little bit more well versed. So it helped in the long run of things.
Where
Right.
you where you living now? Where you
In Atlanta.
you're Atlanta. That's okay. That's what I thought. Oh.
Well,
Yeah.
let's get started because one of the reasons we want to have you on is we're collecting material for the Who Killed 105.3. And so, yeah, so Live 105.3, how did you get started listening to it? What was your entree-vous into becoming a listener to the station?
It was the 1-2 punch of something that Sybil was doing when she was just playing random pop music at a weird time. And I can't remember if Sybil's show came on before you guys' show and then you came on, but it started with me listening late at night one night because I was just like, yo, I've heard all the rap I can hear for today. Let me just punch around and see what's going on. And then I think Sybil was playing a Police song called, it was either Synchronicity or Simplicity. I can't remember. Turn on my VCR, say 1.5 years. And like this is like still during the Audio Galaxy and Kazaa days. So when I and because you couldn't Shazam things, smartphones weren't out back then. So I went home and found that song and downloaded because the world keeps running down. Like yo, so she was playing that song on 105.3, which mostly was talk, but she played music, right? And then
You were the talk that rocks at that point.
indeed.
You
And
did
but then
some
you and Kelly came on Pugs, and it was legit like listening to a reality show on the radio. You guys are doing the show from like the basement. Was it at your house, Pugs, or was it Kelly's crib?
It's her house up in Chicago.
Yo,
Yeah.
and you guys replace like not Rob and Don.
Ron and Don.
Ron and Don.
Yes.
Who got fired after they got finished doing like a bike ride for charity. So they come back and they get fired, and Pugs and Kelly takes their place in the daytime. And then you got to go through that whole saga of you guys moving from Chicago, and then like you had a roommate at the time, Pugs.
Yeah.
And it definitely was seeming like there was something going on with Kelly and the roommate. At least that's the way it played off on radio. That's the way it sounded. And then you start to like, meet the rest of the crew, like, James and Eric and Sybil and all these other people.
You bought into the soap opera. The soap opera
did.
caught you. Yeah, look at you name checking Dave and whether or not he was having a relationship with Kelly. That's crazy.
I was invested from the very, very beginning. And I remember I lived not too far from a place you guys was doing like a remote. And I was like, oh, word, I got to pull up. It was that place where they used to do like the hot wing eating contest. And y'all would do dodgeball. Duke's Original Roadhouse on Beltline. Hell yeah. So when I found out y'all was doing a broadcast from there, I was like, yo, I'm pulling up. And I met y'all was cool as hell, inviting. You know what I mean? And like, man, it was just, I don't know. From that moment on, my respect was just forever cemented for what you guys brought to the table, because I've never heard a show like your show prior to hearing your show.
One of the things that I really appreciated about you very early on, I think it was our first Thanksgiving here in town. We didn't have anywhere to go, so we decided to just have a Thanksgiving at our place for anybody who was, a lot of people in Dallas are from somewhere else, and not everybody was able to get away. And we had a bunch of stray Dallas Cowboys show up because, they didn't have anywhere to go because they weren't, in their hometown. And you and Kenoch came by, and you're sitting there in my living room having Thanksgiving dinner. And I just thought that was one of the most wonderful. I just really thought, because, people in radio are not always as friendly and as decent to
terrible people that work in this business.
So I just thought you were pretty interesting from the beginning. I'm like, wait, that's the guy. That's the hip hop. Why is he in my living room? And then it's like, oh my God, he's one of my favorite people on the planet. That was a really nice gesture that you would have come to that.
No, it was a nice gesture to invite us. You know what I'm saying? It was cool. It was cool. And you didn't check our pockets to make sure we didn't steal or anything. It was great.
No. Remember all those gigantic spare cowboy linemen that were there? It was like there was like 5 cowboy linemen. It was
like Tyson Walters there, and then
Ross Tucker was there. It was just like
Art
all
Bowler.
See, I only mostly knew the people that you name checked on the show.
Yeah.
So because I remember Tyson's name came up a lot. And so I remember that, but it was just super cool that it was like that one dude who looked like he could do magic, but he wasn't a cowboy. He was a part of your show for a second. The guy with the dark hair, you always had a bad chick.
You're talking about Dick Hunter. You're talking about Richard Hunter.
Richard Hunter. Hell yeah. Yo, that dude looks like he know Chris Angel.
Right.
Dick was our guest last night. Dick was sharing 105.3 stories with us last night.
Does he still look like he knows Chris Angel?
He does. Oh yeah, very much so. No, it's the same.
We don't know what he looks like. We don't know what he looks like, James. Buffalo, Emil and I were discussing this earlier today.
Yeah, face off.
All bets are off.
Yeah.
with Richard Hunter. He could have morphed into anything. He could, because he was always so interesting with the way he could have reinvented. We ain't seen him in 10 years. Dude could have reinvented 3 times in 10 years. He might be he might have a giant blonde beehive at this point. I don't know.
No, there's some people in this world that, like whatever you could think of, they could possibly do that thing. And and there was just always an interesting mystique about Richard Hunter. And just because of the Pugs and Kelly affiliation, I used to listen to his, because he had a show too that came on at a really bizarre time as well. And I try to tap in with that. But man, y'all kept an interesting crop of people all around. And Pugs, are you married now? Yo, so for anybody that's watching this, Pugs always kept a bad girlfriend too.
Oh, well, I tried.
Oh, well done, man. You guys were living a dream.
Thank you. So I guess what I'd like to know is, as an outsider who was working in radio in the market, what was it that caught your attention about 105.3? Was there anything that you thought was interesting? You've described what attracted you to the individual shows, But did people around your station ever make mention of it or anything like that? Did it make
Not
any?
at all.
No?
Not at all. Like, because I was always telling people at our station, like, yo, 105.3 is a talk station, and I feel like, there's a space for that on the urban side. Y'all just have to believe in it. And like, and still this many years later, there's not a lot of urban talk shows in the landscape that's not either strictly news or strictly entertainment and gossip. But you guys not only like, created a slice of life talking about you guys' lives. Like I knew everything about everybody on the show, even like, from James to Sybil to Eric, same P Mike. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like real life Simpsons. And every day I got to turn on the radio when I got off the air and listen to it and just really vibe out. So like that was my daily dose of like reality radio. And 105.3 Super served that. And I can't even front. I couldn't stomach anybody else really on the station outside of you guys. Like everybody used to be like, oh, Russ Martin's cool. He got a Batmobile. I don't know. The dickishness oozed through the radio.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't rock with it. And I feel like there was like one more person who was it
Jack.
I remember he beat up his wife and threw her in a fireplace. He came on and Tom Likas. That was another dude who like I would listen to him because I hated him.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see what the hubbub was about. I was like, man, how can I like, try to figure out a way to work the angles the way he did? But far as like a show that I listened to that I genuinely liked, it was y'all's. And then also I would listen to Ron and Don. Hence how I knew that they was on a charity bike ride.
Yeah, that's the worst. They got fired on a charity bike ride.
And in my head, they were wearing the bicycling outfits when they fired them.
Yeah,
the cute little neon green helmets. Oh yeah.
See, I always hate that about people in bicycles. Why do you have to dress like that? Why do you don't need to dress like that? Oh, it makes you more aerodynamic. So what? It's not that important. You have to look like a fruit.
Hey, Headcrack, let me drop something on you. Something that so when I was in Chicago, I was working with some people and we were having some fun with format creation and just trying to, save radio because radio can only be saved honestly by new formats. There's got to be something interesting. So you brought something up about, the urban talk space and how it really, in major urban cities, New York, Chicago, Boston, Detroit, Philly, places like that, Atlanta, you might get some really great local community-based urban talk, right? But there's nothing that is really a nationwide voice. There's nothing that like competes with the USA radio networks or Westwood One and the stuff that they pro. And I wonder why that was. And I started to think, and one of the ideas that we came up with, and let me drop this on you. Why isn't there an urban sports talk network where it's just, I call the format barbershop sports. And I sort of came up with it after seeing that LeBron James show on HBO, the barbershop where they were just sitting around. And I thought, you could reinvent sports talk, which we know in this country is an absolute money machine. It's a cash register. And if you're worried about, the old God, in 1980, well, if we do it for the black people, the white people won't listen. Every white kid in America will be listening to the urban sports show. Are you kidding me? They'd rather listen to that than some 50-year-old newspaper. So I'm wondering, why isn't that a thing? Why hasn't anybody ever tried?
I think they're not allowing it, but I think they're more so embracing that in the podcast space because you got shows like The Pivot.
Fantastic podcasts. Absolutely.
And then the I Am Athlete is another one that is making a lot of noise out there. And I think because those things are doing well, maybe they feel like that occupies the space. The crazy thing about, and you guys are in radio, so you get it, man. Like a lot of people who are in charge and making decisions in radio, they're so smart, they're out of touch or don't 100% know what people are truly into.
They're not entertainers. They're not showmen. They don't know how to connect with an audience on that level. All they know is what the bottom line is. James, I'm sorry. I cut you off. It looked like you were about to say something.
No, I wasn't going to say anything, but kind of echoing exactly what you're saying there. In the fact that what the split would be, because I would imagine the demographics on the format you're describing would split kind of like the beat did. And what percentage of your audience when you were on the beat was white kids who lived in, Plano and Garland and, the suburbs and exurbs. It's probably more than half of your audience was white.
It's a good balance. I mean, I think, especially in an urban space, you can never be 100% number one just by being number one for Black people. It has to be an all-inclusive party. And that's the cool thing about hip-hop as a format. If you go to a hip-hop show, everybody's there. Black people, white people, Latinos, Asian, Middle Eastern, like the whole thing. So it's a melting pot. So I feel like a lot of times in urban radio, they just don't think about that whole overall inclusivity factor. And that's not saying like an umbrella statement that is across the board, but I think it varies from city to city. And then when you add syndication, it gets a little bit more blanketed because they just try to like just shoot the arrow straight down the middle and not think about all the other targets they can hit along the way. And I think that's one of the things that stagnates the format a little bit sometimes.
What they used to sort of pigeonhole themselves into as urban culture or urban media or whatever, that's no longer a subcategory. That is essentially youth culture. That's modern American youth culture. Urban culture is modern American youth culture. My son is a 13-year-old white kid from Plano, Texas, and he listens to nothing but hip hop. He writes, James, your kid writes beats, my kid writes rhymes. I mean, James kid, a little white kid from Pugs Parker, Texas, right? I mean, that is
not a loop.
That is modern American youth culture. And I mean, I don't know. I just think that the limitations, I always feel, I feel like there should be a greater presence of urban voices on radio. And I think that one of the reasons that radio is falling apart is because they don't do that. They don't. And when you do have a strong urban voice, it's one guy. It's Larry Elder, right?
Yo, I've been hearing that name for years. Now, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
I'd love to hear, personally, I'd like to hear in the sports world. I think there are so many great sports talkers that you could have this really cool reinvention of like an urban sports. And look, I mean, black guys, instead of a bunch of white newspaper dudes who have been, doing sports radio for 30 years, how about some young, fast, funny, how about the guys that you see on the NBA today? How about you know what I mean? I hear it all the time. In Chicago. There's a guy named Lawrence Holmes who is my favorite sports. You familiar with Lawrence Holmes at all?
Not at all.
You should check him out. He's brilliant. He's a university professor. He's a black guy. He's a black guy university professor, but he takes an approach on sports that is so. It's not X's and O's. It's almost like
he makes it entertaining.
He makes it not just entertaining, but he finds the common threads with society's greater conversation. And he's just really brilliant at doing this in a real artful way. And I just think there's a place for that voice and that kind of perspective that isn't really heard in sports talk when you consider that the majority of, the sports audience are young men of black and white.
I totally agree with you. And you just have to have more people in that higher chair that understands what's missing in the format to hit the button. Like, man, you would just be surprised the things that I experience in meetings and things that I say that later on they're trying to do like it's a brand new idea. Because sometimes people have to feel like, oh, I came up with this. Like, no, I literally said that 7 years ago. And you looked at me like I was speaking Mandarin. You know what I mean? And yeah. I mean, that's why radio is on CPR right now, and it needs more fresh energy. It's almost like how Hollywood started shifting when the young people with the great ideas started getting into positions of power where they could be like, yo, let's greenlight this project and that project. Because like the hip people started getting into those seats of, those high power seats.
James?
Well, there's a concern when you're going to your events and you see other radio people at your events. Just like if you're a comedian and you look out in your audience, you don't want to see other comedians because you don't want to be the comedian's comedian. You don't want to be the alternative rock band that all the other bands want to go see. And I was kind of concerned that if you're the talk show host, then we are nowhere near the mainstream. Like, didn't you kind of have that itch, Pugs?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I suppose. Yeah.
Yo, I gotta say, as a fan, when there was a void left by you guys' absence, like I was legit sad. As sad as an adult male can be, especially when y'all went from 105.3 to whatever station. I think it was the Eagle.
The
Bone.
Bone.
The Bone.
Oh, was that?
Oh man, that was tough. I had to listen to some like heavy guitars and stuff to get to y'all talk.
They lied to us. They lied. They made us promises and then they didn't deliver. Yeah, that was awful. And but luckily, yeah, we signed a 3-year deal over there. And after 6 months, they decided that they were going to go to a Latino dance music format. And I remember Kelly sitting in the office and she goes, well, that's going to be a problem because I don't speak Spanish.
Classic Kells, man.
So were you still down when the station fell apart, Headcrack, or had you moved at that point?
The station, I think I was still there as it was unraveling because I left Dallas in October of 2010, November 2010.
Yeah, and it flipped to the fan in 2008, I think, wasn't it, Pugs?
2008, 2009, somewhere in there. Yeah, the summer between 2008, summer of 2008. So Headcrack, you and I left around the same time. Actually, no, I think I was a year later. Yeah, it was about a year later. I guess I didn't realize you'd been gone that long.
Yeah, I mean the whole syndication factor makes it seem like you're in places where you're not really at, and and I think they did a great job at localizing the show. So big ups to the local board ops on that. But man, like 105.3, the way y'all would do events and all that other good stuff, like man, it was just an event, man, and it was like an event that like it was like being a part of a secret society to a degree.
For you, maybe. I don't know. I was trying to make it not a secret society. I want as many people coming to these things as possible. But
no, definitely for me and people that would probably also go to Deep Ellum to go watch Nas rap.
We had a little bit of a cult vibe going, especially with our show and with our inner circle. Which
the dodgeball teams,
yeah,
legendary. and I followed y'all to multiple locations to play dodgeball. At various degrees of good.
Yeah, well, the best place was always going to be Duke's. Duke's did it right. We had the cement parking lot and the multiple cages. And then, the salespeople got involved. It became a very high demand promotion. So a bidding war broke out. So Bud Light offered a whole bunch of money to become the exclusive sponsor of it. And then Bud Light just stuck us wherever with no consideration for the playing service. And of course, the sales department had marching orders about playing service and all that, but they caved.
Got you.
So we ended up playing on sand at, this one place for a couple. It was just one.
That was a tough
year they just
course.
A little bit. Yeah, there was every year though. Every year they just whittled a little bit away from what was cool about that promotion until it was just a smoldering mess at the end.
Do you have any wild live 105.3 stories, Headcrack?
One of my first, I don't really take a lot of L's in public, and if anybody doesn't know what that means, it losses. So I remember one time at Duke's, they did a wing eating contest. And I'm like, and I was way heavier back then. It's like before, I got in shape for boxing and all that stuff. And it was like, yeah, I could probably win this whole contest. The wings were thick, spicy, and bready. And I remember I was like on my 5th or 6th one, and I couldn't chew it fast enough. And then a lone tear just formed in the corner of my eye, and then just rolled down slowly, and I was immediately eliminated, man. That was a tough one, in the live space. But far as on air, I mean, there was just so many things that I just remember being great. I remember Kelly and her husband splitting up their assets on the radio.
Yeah, that was real.
That was wild, because, and there's a part of me who understands how a lot of things in radio is fake, but I know you guys, and I knew it wasn't fake. And that's just what made it so beautiful. Because sometimes in the urban space, everybody's so damn cool. Yeah. To where we would never be that transparent. And that taught me to yo, man, it's cool to bleed. It's cool to go through things.
We loved the awkward moment, and we also found some glory in wallowing in humiliation. So there was we were twisted in that way. that we felt that if we could humiliate ourselves to the point where other people are laughing and having a good time, then that works for us. We'll do that. So yeah, but that's nice that you point that out, because Kelly was fearless. Kelly was far more fearless than I was. I talked a big game, but when it came to actually being willing to reveal everything about your private life, Kelly was really fearless.
But Pugs, like when you went through that period of time, and I know it might be tough to talk about, but when you
That might be my son. Yeah, when my son passed away. Yeah.
Yo, like, man, I felt that, man. Like, like
Oh, thank you.
it's to be there with you guys from the good times and the bad times. And I'm somebody who I feel like I walked in, and I don't know how long your show was going on, like while you guys were in Chicago before you moved here. Cause I feel like I was listening to you guys for about a month or two before you guys actually moved into the middays. But man, like to be there for the whole roller coaster of it all. and even to hear like, because like I know when there's like little smoke coming from like under the door, right? Because I could tell there was some things going on with sales, and like there was like some battle going on that all the fans weren't 100% privy to, but you could just tell. Like I could tell the coded language.
Some of the shows didn't get along. There was a lot of tension behind the scenes there.
I do remember that. Yep.
And
who was your biggest adversary in the building show wise?
Oh no, easily that'd be Russ. Yeah,
gotcha.
He was the one who made it most difficult for us. Everybody else we got along great with. I mean,
yeah, and it wasn't that we were all at each other's backs. There was just one show that didn't.
There was just one show that was mean to pretty much.
We got along just fine with Jagger. We got along just fine with whoever was in the evening show, whether it was Liz Wild or Big Dig Hunter or the Miss Show or Dan Lewis, all those people,
Anthony or Lycus or whoever it was.
Guys Next Door, Fitz, Billy the Kid, Bethany, we all got along. It's just one dude.
Just one guy.
One really eccentric dude. Like it seemed like they only make one of those kind of guys every like a certain amount of years. Like, like I mean, ego and all that other stuff. It was very interesting, but it was just like there was just a smugness that like I just couldn't rock with. Like he didn't seem approachable like you guys did. Like I would never call that show.
Well, it would be really good if it was a bit. And it's not funny because he really is that dude in real life, because that's the whole thing. Like Woody Woodpecker, he just runs around being an ass. That's his whole bit. He's right. So that's funny, and until he gets off work and you have to go to the bar with him, or if you have to meet him in the hallway or whatever. He's one of those guys. Like it's funny on the air, but it's not funny in real life.
In real life, yeah. And I think having the Batmobile can do that to you.
And the speed racer car. You remember
he had the Mach 5 Speed Racer.
And I never saw that one.
He had the Dukes of Hazzard General Lee.
Yeah, that's right. He did. Yeah. Well, yeah.
For the racism factor, it sounds about right.
Right.
Hey, Headcrack, I know that you got to run. We thank you so much for joining us. Where can people check you out? Where can people find you? I know we talked about the TV show every night at 10:30, right, on Fox?
It varies from city to city, depending on where you guys are tapping in. If you go to dishnation.com, you can check it out. I also have a podcast called Headcrack After Hours, where I talk about my ayahuasca retreats and things like that. And then
hold on.
We're going back and we're going to take a left onto that street.
We would like to know about your ayahuasca retreats. I'm fascinated by this.
Brother, I've gone on 4 retreats and participated in 11 ayahuasca ceremonies. It is
now this is ayahuasca is famous these days because Aaron Rodgers has become a big proponent of it. And
I beat him to it. He just has more followers than me. But it finds you when it needs to find you in life, and it founded me at a time when I needed it. And it really, truly changed my life. And I'm really looking forward to going on yet another ayahuasca retreat. Because just as soon as I think I've completed the book, because I even on my last retreat, I was like, all right, after this one, I think I'm good. And then when I was done, I was like, oh my God, I need more. I need more, because it just continues to unlock things about yourself and the universe that you have no idea is going on.
Well, explain to people what ayahuasca is.
Okay, so ayahuasca is a tea that's brewed, right, by, typically a shaman, and 9 times out of 10, you wanna really do it with somebody who is from the lineage, who truly knows what they're doing. So the guy who, I would go to the retreats with, he was from South America, but they come to the States, and they do it, like, in a little traveling scenario. Like, the first one I went to was actually in Georgia, because most people think you need to go to, like, the jungles of Brazil and Colombia and all this other stuff, and not so much, right? So basically, they take the root of this tea, they boil it, and they mix it with, I think, like some aloe vera water or whatever, and then you drink it, and then you just kick back and relax, and a purge will happen. It's either going to be uptown or downtown, but a purge is going to happen. Just prepare for it. Like there's nothing you can do about it. Like you're gonna like purge up all this dark stuff, and man, and the crazy thing, everybody's experience is always going to be different. Like during
Now,
the time,
this is an hallucinogen. Yes, this is.
yes.
How do we classify this? Because it's not
It,
just like a can of beer. This is
yeah, it's not quite a psychedelic per se, but it is a hallucinogen that opens up your pineal gland and your chakras in such a way to where you're seeing all the different frequencies and you're hearing all the different things. It's crazy because like the first time I knew people around me were speaking English because, yes, I'm still in America. However, my brain was rewired to like hear other things. And I know this is going to sound absurd. And to Jeff Ballard's question, yes, I did vomit quite a bit, uptown and downtown, but
Really?
it's all controlled. I made it to the bathroom,
Right.
and that's the cool thing about when you go to certain controlled retreats, because like the first one we went to, it was in a very beautiful house that had like a ceremony space in the basement of the house, so there was adequate bathrooms and all this other stuff, so that was a vibe. But so like when you go, you typically will do 3 ceremonies. In my very first ceremony, my takeaways that I wanted to have was, how did it feel when my mother died? Like, how did it feel for her? Was she in pain? Is she happy? And same thing with my grandmother. And because I like hip hop so much, the Notorious B.I.G. Um, all of these people, what they experienced when they transitioned from this physical plane going into the spiritual plane, there's no drug that can replicate that. There's no amount of money you can find in your pockets. There's no check that anybody could write you that could replicate that feeling. Like we truly are the ones who are here on earth suffering. And they're good. Like this whole physical experience we're going through, this is all the pregame. This is all the pregame. We think everything here matters. It really doesn't. It's what happens next that is truly the mind-blowing experience. And I was able to experience what that felt like. Is that my phone?
Yeah.
Oh, let me hit
I think that's
decline.
Biggie.
You're
There
a
we go.
head crack. You're a little psychonaut. Look at
I
that.
like existential head crack.
No, man, listen, I like if I could do it once a month or once every other month, I would, but I don't want to break my antenna. But so like that was like the big takeaway from the very first night of my ceremony.
You gotta keep it a treat. You gotta like every 9 months, make it a treat. Can't be doing it every day,
Oh,
right?
no, you can't do it every day. Like there was somebody who I talked to recently who knew someone who like did just way too many, and they were no longer grounded on
Yeah.
earth anymore. They were no longer grounded. But the last thing I want to tell you about my very first ceremony, like the retreat I went rather, there was a young lady who was a midwife, but she couldn't bear children. And I'm like, how tragic is that? So after my first ceremony, because that's all I wanted. I was like, yo, is my mom okay? That's all I wanted to know. So the second ceremony, it made me a little bit closer to nature because I hate outside. I hate grass. At least I used to. Now I have a better appreciation for nature. I understand that you do have to go outside and walk around barefoot sometimes just to like ground yourself. But I always felt like I was gonna get bit by a spider, not get powers, die. In that order, right? But now I appreciate outside and walking around like like a hippie. But the third ceremony, I was like, yo, I got everything I need from this trip. Let me lend my energy to the room. So when I did the tea that night, I threw up and my purge was so dark and so black, right? That I knew it wasn't from me. this one girl who I got really, chummy with during the trip, who told me about like, yeah, like, like me and my husband, we've been trying to have a kid for like, like about a year and it's just not working out. And, and I was like, yo, how tragic is that? And you're a midwife. So once I purged, I can't even quite explain it, Pugs and James, but I was able to send my energy into her body and fix what was wrong with her. And then I rolled over and I told her after the ceremony, I was like, hey, listen, you're going to have a baby in 11 months. It's going to be a girl. She's going to be amazing. She looked at me like, like, how dare you? But I believed it in my heart of hearts that what I was saying was right, because I felt what I felt and I knew what I felt and I knew what was going on. So we exchanged numbers and we kept in touch. About 6-7 weeks later, she sends me a text of a stick with the blue lines that says, hey, you're pregnant. She literally had a baby 11 months later. It was a boy though, but maybe he's gay.
Well, wait a second. I was going to say, how many months later? Because are you sure you didn't just hook up with this woman?
No, I definitely did not. Unless it was like in a succubus spiritual kind of way, but that was really truly crazy, and it taught me a lot, because there's a lot of people who are energy workers, people who do Reiki, and so I realized at that point, it's like, wow, I thought my goal in life was to make the best rap album ever recorded. No, it's to like help and heal people.
Man, I love that stuff. I am so fascinated by the inner workings of the mind and unlocking, these boxes. And we know that psychedelics and we know that certain other kinds of organics and stuff like that have shown that they do allow you to sort of go different places with your mind. The exploration of that, and I've always been, I'm not a big, like I've done mushrooms a couple of times, I've done acid a couple of times, but certainly not in the last 25 years. But the idea and the allure of later in life, like now going back and investigating that and just seeing like what kind of muck we can get into on our own heads. That's fascinating.
And you're supposed to do that in your 20s. Like, you're supposed to go through one of these fantastic voyages, and
I don't know. I think it's way
in your brain out and stretch it and figure out, and then what to do with your life. You guys.
No, I disagree. Now that I've been through shit, now that I've had a life, now's the time to go and unpack all that crap. At 20, I got nothing.
Yeah, absolutely right. Because I feel like if I was doing that stuff in my 20s, I don't know. Because like I was Mr. Clean in my 20s. Like, yo, I don't smoke no weed. Like, shrooms, get out of here, you druggie. But now at this point in my life, I realize that mushrooms are actually better than weed, far as like the what it does for your brain and connect all those synapses. And and we as men, we don't cry enough. We don't emote enough.
No,
like,
we don't.
Weed makes you feel nothing. Mushrooms make you feel everything. And sometimes you got to go through that range of emotion and do that data dump.
Wow, that is a really interesting way of putting it. Weed makes you feel nothing. And I had to think for a moment. James, do you agree with that?
Mushrooms make you feel everything?
Yeah, I think in this context, I do agree with that.
I think alcohol makes you feel nothing. I think weed can really enhance whatever you're doing, but I get the big sense to where weed kind of simplifies your mind down, where you're not like thinking about,
relaxes you to a point where your anxiety is nothing.
Yeah.
But mushrooms are one of those in the category of drugs where you don't do that if you're not already in a good mood. If you're in a bad mood, don't do mushrooms.
You will have a terrible trip.
Right. And if you're in a bad mood, don't do acid.
And I've never done acid before, but I have done mushrooms in a terrible mood, just because I just needed to wrestle with my emotions and the things I was dealing with at that time. So I'm a glutton for punishment in that regards, and also Pugs. Like, I don't know what mushrooms you tried back in the days, and I don't know which ones you tried, James. However, if you know what the right kind of mushroom to get for, like, whatever you're dealing with, it's game changer. I mean, there's penis envy, there is golden teacher, there's this one I got from DC called Jedi Mind F, and they're like the size of little popcorn kernels. And if you just pop 3, you're good, and you can still function. It's a very clean, organic feeling.
Well, that's another thing, and it sounds like you're further along than I was. The last time I did mushrooms, the last time I did mushrooms, I did too much, and that's why I haven't done it in like 30 years because it was not fun. It wouldn't go away. You know, it's like
Understand.
8, 9 hours into it, and I'm still like, this is not going away. Um, but I do think, I mean, those experiences that I can draw upon from, like I say, almost 30 years ago now, I can see that if I could figure out a proper dosage, I could see how that could be really useful in
Oh my
figuring
goodness. So
who I am and what I'm doing here, you know?
there's they have these chocolate bars that are made for microdosing. They're now even putting them in like little caps, like you would take your vitamins and stuff like that. But like if you get like a chocolate bar, do like one square, maybe two, boom, good to go. And it's not one of those things where like you'll be like, Tyrone Biggums from the Chappelle Show, like, hey, what's up? Got any more? Like, like you'll go through what you need to go through, and then you can like carry on with your life and continue to rock out. But it'll find you when it needs to find you. That's how I feel like how like most of these things really are. Because man, like listen, like I think when we was hanging out back, I wasn't even really drinking, and I still don't really drink.
No, yeah, I don't think of you as a partier. I don't think of you
Yeah.
as I think of you as a good time guy, like you're around when the times are good and we're having fun, but you're not a let's do shots, let's get shit fit. That's never been you.
Yeah, nah, because I was the guy who usually had to drive. You know what I'm saying? To get everybody home safe. But, like post-pandemic, when everybody was going through different levels of stress, you kind of find those things that like kind of balanced you out and like, kept Dr. Jekyll from turning to Mr. Hyde, or maybe it's the other way around. I don't think I've ever seen that movie all the way through.
Well, I always enjoy the discussion about hallucinogens because I haven't heard the coherent argument against it. Hey, you can go on this little fantastic voyage. Okay, well, is it addictive? Oh no, it's not addictive. You're not going to be under the bridge doing I mean, there's not
Right.
people aren't under the bridge doing acid or mushrooms or DMT or whatever.
No.
And the only argument against it is, well, that stuff's illegal. It's like, oh well, that never stops me. Jesus.
Right. I mean, and then also too, like what even got me into that whole world of like psychedelics and going on ayahuasca retreats is I used to be able to astral project almost when I wanted to.
Astro
And
project. Here we
and
go.
then when my mom passed, my antenna was broke and I couldn't do it anymore. So like in the search for DMT, I was like, you know what? It seemed like it was easier to go on an ayahuasca retreat. So if you guys ever want to go on one, you let me know and I will
I
connect the
do.
dots
I
for you
will.
guys.
James, come on, a show outing. Me, you, and
What?
Headcrack. We go on a
I can't-
ayahuasca retreat. Sign me up.
Why can't you just get some acid from a guy in Deep Ellum and shut
We'll
yourself?
come over. We'll get a hotel room.
Different.
We'll get a nice hotel room, and then we'll find some guy, and we'll just hang out in Dallas one
I
night.
know how to set up a trip room. I can be your tour guide. It'll be fine. Follow me.
Little black lights, little neon going.
Yeah.
Headcrack, thank you so much for joining us. It really is a treat, and I really do appreciate you coming on and wasting time with us.
Yo, no, it's time well spent. Appreciate y'all. Shout out to Will Norton. He said, get back to 105.3 talk. So I'm gonna slide to the side so y'all can do just that. But yo, man, like for real, if people don't run up to you guys and say it enough, thank you for being so transparent.
Oh, stop it.
No, for real. Like, no,
It's very nice of you to say, and it means a lot coming from you.
like, I mean, like, I made a little statue of you guys in my room. But it's invisible. But like I really mean it though. Like for real. Like you guys had laid the groundwork for how talk radio can be done, how it could be exciting, and how it could be like a reality show. Only thing you guys was missing was having cameras. It's the only thing y'all missing.
Well, look, I mean, you're not wrong with what they were transparent about, but it's hard to take that praise because there's quite a few things that we weren't transparent about. Not that we were dishonest, but under 99% of the circumstances that we would be in for the rest of our lives, we would turn on the microphone and be like, hey, that guy that comes on after us is a dick, no matter what the consequences were. We would never shut up about a guy like that again. That's at least what I've vowed. If I'm in that situation again, I go full ham at the guy. And I'm, if I'm going to get run out of town anyway, I'm going to do it, dropping shells.
Yeah, do it on your shield, man. For real. But yo, man, y'all keep swinging and fighting a good fight. And if you ever need me, call me. I'm here. I'm down to talk about whatever, man. I love you guys, man. For real.
Best of luck, continued success on all the projects. Good for you. There he goes. Sorry, I am losing my voice. I am James. Hold on, I gotta clear my. Oh my goodness. I love him. Who doesn't love Headcrack? He's
All right,
such
I was waiting for him to go away before I was going to bust your chops here.
yeah.
What's with your hat? You're just wearing a plain black hat? Because I have been subconsciously trained by network TV and movies and stuff that the only time I see a hat with nothing on it is in a situation where like, well, we can't put a logo in there because fair use or whatever. And so they just do like the blank hat, and it always looks so fake. It looks like the fashion version of when you see those police hubcaps on otherwise normal looking cars. You're like, oh, that's an undercover cop, right? So when I see this a hat with nothing on it, I'm like, well, are you in a movie? Is this a TV show? Why are you wearing that?
Well, it's just a hat that doesn't feel the need to emblazon some product's name upon it. So I don't know. What are you talking? I don't know. You've never
Well,
seen.
it's not a logical argument I'm making. I'm just pointing
Oh,
out that I
yeah.
have been subconsciously trained to be suspicious of hats with no logos because I never see it except for these situations where it's fake. It's like because like there was this one time when they did the remake of Sabrina. Remember that? And it was like Harrison Ford and Greg Kinnear.
Yeah.
And Harrison Ford's Linus, and he's trying to woo the girl, and so he takes her out on some like helicopter ride so she can take pictures of the villa that they're going to sell. And in order to look like just a regular guy and not Linus, the business tycoon, he puts on like a hat with no logo, and that looked so fake, like that. I don't know.
Hats used to have no logos. That's a relative new thing in the last 30, 40 years.
What,
You-
baseball hats or just hats? Period.
Well, hats in general. I mean, baseball hats had logos, but
Well,
other
fedoras don't have logos on them.
what's that? What are you saying?
Fedoras have never had a logo. I see what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the hats logo. Hats were just black hats like this back in the day, and they still exist. I don't know. I don't feel like I have the energy to defend my solid black hat.
Do you know the lifespan of the top hat?
What would the lifespan of a top hat? It's an inanimate object. I don't believe it has a lifespan. What do you mean?
Well, they weren't wearing top hats in Shakespearean times. They weren't.
Oh, okay. So
They
yeah,
weren't wearing top hats in Revolutionary times, and then they were wearing them sometime between there and like after World War II. No one was wearing top hats. Like, I guess the last time you saw a top hat in some sort of pop culture reference would be like the Monopoly Man in the sort of Great Gatsby Roaring '20s era.
Here's what I think. I think the top hat, 1850 to 1920. I would say that's the top hat era. 1850 to 1920.
Yeah, see, I'd be interested for someone who actually knows what they're talking about besides us two talking out of our ass, because we know it was definitely in play by the time Abraham Lincoln showed up, because there's a lot of references, and he wore a top hat to the Gettysburg Address or
He
whatever.
wore a big one. He was like walking around. Remember those remember in the 90s those trippy kids would wear the big Dr. Seuss hats? They're like big giant stuff. Yeah. That was like what Abe was rocking back in his time. That thing was humorously large. His big top stove top, stovepipe top, pipe. I don't know, whatever. It was called something like that.
Yeah, the stovepipe hat or something. But I like how it was a thing that for I don't know, 50, maybe 100 years that kind of went away. And I mean, I can understand why it went away too, because I mean, what a ridiculous thing to put on your head. And we just don't wear hats because we're not outside all day, every day anyway. But I noticed the time span for these trends has gotten shorter, like the life cycle of fashion has gotten considerably shorter, because top hats were a thing for like 50 years, and then bell bottoms were a thing for like 15 years, and then Jinkos were a thing for like 10 years maybe, and then Ed Hardy shirts were a thing for like 5 years. And so I think these things just cycle out a whole lot.
What about parachute pants? What about polyester pants? Polyester pantsuits? Oh, yeah, all kinds of things. Hey, I've got a question for you. I don't know if I've ever discussed this with you, but it's a question that I bring up from time to time because it's on my deathbed. Maybe this will be one of the questions answered. James, who do you think? So when you look at pictures from like the earliest days of photography, any kind of group picture, anything, nobody is ever smiling. When did people start smiling in pictures? Is this like a 1950s or 60s thing? Because even if you look at pictures like in the 20s and 30s, people aren't smiling.
have an answer for that. I think it's going to be.
Well, and you're going in and out. I can't really hear you.
Hang on. I'm trying to set up something over here. All right, I have an answer for that though, and it totally makes sense the second it comes out of my mouth. About the time people started utilizing the services of dentists on a successful basis. So one of the things that was the greatest tells of how old you were was how many teeth you were missing, because missing teeth were not only the norm, they were a given. There's no one that made it to age 40 without missing multiple teeth, right?
Yeah,
And
I mean, you do see pictures of people laughing from back then, and their teeth are all messed up. Yeah, it seemed pretty common to have
well,
bad.
it's not only very common, it's everybody almost by the age of 60 had lost all of their teeth and were wearing dentures, and dentures were like 1 out of 5 people now wear dentures. It was like 1 out of 3 people.
Everybody, yeah.
Had some sort of, man, and like George Washington went into detail about how the stuff was wired into his mouth with like a little thin gold wire because it wouldn't corrode, and it just it made his gums bleed. It was painful. Oh, it's just awful.
Colonial dentistry. That does not sound like something I'd want.
It was just pulling teeth. That's all it was. And if they accidentally crushed the tooth, how would they get all the pieces out? So when dentistry came about to where you could do this, Pugs, without being freaking embarrassed by your picture, that's when you started doing it.
Yeah, okay, I think that does play a role in it, though. But I don't think people were embarrassed because, as you said, it was so common to have messed up teeth. Everybody saw each other's messed up teeth.
Well, so, yeah, I don't take a pictures like, see this little spot of gray hair? Let's accentuate the hell out of this. That makes me look old and awful. No, and like if you have a big gut, you're not going to take the picture front and center. It's a dentistry issue.
What do you got? You got anything else? Anything else you want to talk about?
Dude, I didn't come in totally empty-handed. Check this out, man. Yeah. I have just an awfully generic name, and
yes, you do.
Yeah. So we put out an amazing promo for our next podcast project, Who Killed Live 1053. And I like to dig through my own belly button, and I was going through the YouTube analytics on where am I getting all these views from, because it got posted to the Observer this morning at 4 a.m. And so you could see a little traffic tick up when people started waking up, and where are all these sources coming from? And oh, someone posted to a blog over here, and oh, someone shared on Facebook over here. And then there was one from WWLTV.com, and WWLTV is the big station in New Orleans. There's 2 big stations. It's one of them. And what did they post about it? And the link from YouTube analytics didn't work properly. So I'm like, screw it. I'll just go to the WWLTV site and search for my name. And this is the kind of crap you find when you have a stupid generic name, and ignore the. We got an ad here.
Get a free motion base with the purchase of select mattresses. And we're not done.
This is just from June, like June 6 months.
We begin this morning with breaking news. A man is in jail this morning after calling 911 and admitting to killing his roommate. Kenner police say it happened at the Sugar Mill Apartments on Williams Boulevard. When officers arrived, they found the roommate, 22-year-old James Parker, shot several times. He died at the scene. Parker's roommate, 24.
Look at you go.
I'm fine. That's okay. I'm fine. It's okay. So it's just funny because I used to do this bit because I kept finding when I got my own show, you know how you're like, what would be just a good off the wall segment to do? And so I thought I'm gonna Google my name and all the people who've done dumb stuff with my name. I'm just gonna make a whole segment about it. And it worked. And it worked out great because there's a lot of James Parkers in the English speaking world around the globe that have done dumb stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of mayhem.
And so it was awful because maybe we'll do this on a future show. I've saved all these little news clips. I just stacked up like 6 dudes in a row named James Parker that did the most horrific things, like raping children or murder or
Great
whatever.
Moments in being James Parker.
Some guy was a basketball coach who diddled his players, and it's just the worst. And they all have the name James Parker, and so you just got to hear this. And as I do the segment, I just get progressively more and more irate that all these other James Parkers are ruining my name. But this happened on accident today, and I just want to show you how much this happens to me because I have such a painfully generic name.
Well, you will survive. Good show tonight. Thank you. I'm very tired. They're laying new sewers behind my house, and they start working at 7:30 in the morning, and it's just.
Hey,
No.
can I chat? Can I get a little word of criticism here? For all
Yeah,
you
go
people who are like, who the hell's Headcrack? Why are you talking? I don't know this guy. Don't be an ass to our guests. That's embarrassing to us. Headcrack's one of our friends, and if you don't know who it is, then there's something wrong with you. We're not
that's
bringing him on for light and transient causes. He was a personal friend who was adjacent to all the wild crap that was happening back then, and he's wildly successful. And just sneer at him.
Yeah, ask. Yeah, he's one of the most successful radio personalities in America right now, and it's just I'm just very proud of him. I love that guy.
Oh no!
All right.
Look, this is another one. There's a guy in Australia, another James Parker who was gay and now straight, and he does gay conversion therapy. Oh, he was on the segment. Don't worry. A lot of idiot Jameses out there.
All right, bye, James. I'll see y'all tomorrow at high noon. Appreciate you being by. Sorry, I'm having a weird cold thing going on here. It's not a cold though. I don't know. I'm so messed up. All right, bye everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow at 12 p.m. for High Noon with me, Pugs Moran, on the Radio Misfits podcast platform.
I am on a never-ending quest. I am on a never-ending quest.